title of the research topic that Anne-Marie you mentioned. And well, for a detail, please look at the link. And we are interested in reviews and regional research focused on the neurophysiological underpinnings of products, technological, food, beverage, commercial messages, packaging, environmental, and but also we are looking for critical point of view about the limitations and value of this neuromarketing approach. And so we look forward for your papers. And moving on, why neuromarketing? I do really love this sentence by David Ogilvy. Many of you, I for sure already know this sentence. Consumers don't think how they feel, they don't say what they think, and they don't do what they say. They're liar. No, they're not liar, but they're we do not really realize what moves, what pushes our decision making. Well, the interest in neuromarketing is growing in the last years, as you can see by the graph on the bottom of the slide. And well, our approach was to focus on some indexes based on neurophysiological measures like EEG, eye tracking, heart rate, and galvanic skin response, and so on, in order to provide some proxy of internal states, mental states, and what moves our intention to buy and so on. Okay, or to just influence our behaviors as consumers. Well, just to give at a glance at a glance, the possible applications of neuromarketing. Well, of course, shopping experience, neuropolitics, mobile advertising, and so on, customer experience, also in virtual reality, and also tasting and interaction experience. My intention is to give obviously an overview of some applications of neuromarketing, but absolutely my intention is not to give an exhaustive and detailed dissertation about that. So I chose to show you some studies that we conducted, and welcome, and your feedback is welcome, of course. Let's go on. So let's start with the what was defined as the silent salesman packaging. Yeah, we decided to investigate the influence of three features of the product: brand, familiarity, and hedonic value. And as hedonic value, we tested comfort food, and as comfort food, we tested chocolate bars and daily food. In particular, we chose rice. And we adopted some indexes. In this case, I'm showing you the results of the asymmetric frontal alpha activity, and that is an index of a tendency of approach or withdrawal from a stimulus. And in particular, for positive values of the frontal alpha symmetry, there is a tendency of approach, and vice versa for negative values, a tendency of withdrawal. In the visual exploration of these products, but also in the visual and tactile exploration of these products, we found a higher approach tendency toward the comfort food. And this could be expected, and it's interesting that it occurred only during the visual exploration and visual and tactile exploration, and probably because for the hedonic evaluation of such products, the visual modality was very involved, it was very important. And this is also supported by the observation that for the tactile exploration, the frontal theta activity, so we could consider it as a proxy of processing of information. The tactile exploration reported lower frontal theta activity in comparison to visual exploration and visual and tactile exploration. And well, concerning another very interesting point, the local versus foreign products comparison. Well, we see that also for the frontal alpha sim, so a tendency of approach, but also for the processing, the foreign products reported higher values in comparison to the local ones. Well, how could we explain this? In according to Mandler's theory that demonstrated that complex stimulus requests a higher processing, but also produce a higher interest. And we could consider it, an index of interest, the approach withdrawal. So this tendency of approach. Moving on, well, concerning this comparison between familiar and unfamiliar food tasting, but for I wrote here, reported here, definition of product familiarity, and so it's basically a comparison with what we already know about, we already we expect about a product. Well, we tested bakery products, two Italian ones and two Chinese ones. And well, what we see that for the processing, the foreign product elicited a higher processing in comparison to the local ones, and we expected this also in relation to the results that I showed you just before. But it's very interesting that we also tested for the familiarity. We asked for a rate of a familiarity before and after the tasting of such products. And there was a correlation between a negative correlation between the familiarity and the frontal theta taste. So it's like if we do not recognize a site, the foreign product, and it's also, and we have much more to process. And it's also interesting that this correlation, this difference was seen also in the aftertaste. So also the taste did not match any expectancy of the consumer. Okay, this is a pilot study about wine. We were very interested in the cross-sensory influence of the of wine perception. And because flavor is a multidimensional feature, and the congruency between olfaction and taste is very, very important for designing a successful product. Well, in this case, we tested two wines, Sangiovese and Morellino di Scansano, and in two conditions, closed nose and open nose condition. Well, we found that for the tendency of approach, we could say a cognitive approach, we did not find any difference between the two conditions, but we found that for the emotional index. Let me just spend a few words about emotional index. It is an index that is a combination of heart rate, that can be considered an index of emotional balance, and skin conductance levels that can be considered an index of emotional arousal. So this is like a synthesis of these two emotional components, and the higher the emotional index, the higher the emotional involvement in reaction to the investigated stimuli. Well, we see that in the open nose condition, the emotional involvement was higher in comparison to the closed nose. And this is reflected by also the common practice that wine experts like sommeliers do when tasting a wine. In fact, they stimulate the olfaction directly and also through the retronasal via in order to stimulate the olfaction twice. And so this is it's important because well, as I said, for the design of a good product and for the tasting of this product, the perfect condition of these two sensory modalities is needed. Okay. In this case, this is another pilot study, and in this case, we were interested in a technique that is quite ancient, even if it's not known, the product placement. In fact, product placement is a form of advertising whereby advertisers place branded products into TV programs, but also music videos, as I'm showing you. And this technique was born with Lumiere brothers that were the first who put into practice this technique. Well, we tested in young people some music videos with or without product placement. So PPV are with product placement and PPV without those. We found that in reaction to the exposure to videos with product placement, the level of processing was higher in comparison to the videos without product placement. And the if we consider results about the products recall, so a free recall of products that people saw in the music videos train that they watched, we can see that the recalled products were the one who reported the higher percentage of fixation. And we took this data through eye tracking study. Well, these two results talk and explain to each other. In fact, we can say that music videos with product placement are more processed. There are more things to be processed, and products are more recalled. So this could suggest that putting products, commercial products into music videos, but in a right context. In fact, we can see that some products were not recalled, and this could be explained by the fact that maybe there was not a perfect congruency and a perfect contextualization of those products into the video. Well, this is the proper contextualization and congruency is a winning strategy. Okay, keeping talking about moving toward commercials, TV commercials, we decided to study two traditional dimensions, gender and age influence on the perception of TV commercials. Well, in this case, in the first case, we selected a car TV commercial by Toyota and about hybrid cars. Well, in this case, we saw that that in general, along all the video, men presented a higher approach tendency toward the stimuli in comparison to women. But it's interesting to note that this was not true in two moments of the advertisement. During the baby cry listening and during the silent part of the advertisement. Well, this commercial was about the comparison between among um, different auditory elements and the silent innovation of hybrid curves. And well, so why baby cry and why silence were reached a statistical significant difference between these two population, men and women? Well, probably because baby cry stimulates women response to thalamo cortical limbic uh, mm, stimulation that elicit a negative response that was reflected by the frontal alpha symmetry uh, in a more sustained way than men. And the silence. Well, silence is very interesting because usually silence is used to prepare the observer um, for for something. I mean, for the most important part of the commercial. Well, this could suggest that in women this is not so effective. Silence maybe is not so useful if the target population is composed by women. Okay, concerning the second commercial, we selected a commercial by Biggerson. So the product was Erection Biggerson, so a popular chewing gum. And the plot was about a pair of lovers living far away, and the plot was an accelerating climax with not so nice images. Well, in the most paradigmatic um, images, so the one in the center, that was also disliked by participants in the self-report results. Well, we can say that for all the adults, that the one that disliked this part of the commercial reported also a withdrawal tendency, as clearly seen here. Okay, now let's move on to a particular kind of advertisement that are public service announcements. In particular, this set of studies were conducted in the framework of European project Smoke Free Brain, and that was conducted between 2015 and 2018. Well, we in this project we adopted a different approach from the traditional one. I mean, we did not uh, chose to trying to predict the effectiveness or ineffectiveness of advertisement of commercials, but we made the reverse. I mean, we tried to identify the neurophysiological features of effective and ineffective anti-smoking PSAs. And we investigated that in populations of smokers, non-smokers, and young adults, and so on. Well, what we saw is that um, Okay, here on the left you can see the stimuli that we selected, and well, what we found is that heavy smokers, um, so smoker who smoke more than 5 cigarettes per day, presented a higher frontal theta, so higher processing of stimuli in of effective PSA stimuli in comparison to non-smokers. Well, this could be surprising at first, because one could predict that maybe heavy smoker would not process at all anti-smoking messages, but not. This is not the case. Probably no smokers did not process so much such kind of stimuli because, according to Petty and colleagues, who demonstrated that when a message does not match, does not fit with a personal opinion, a person tends to not process that. So it's like if this negative behavior toward this stimula, that it's like, hey, this stimula does not really talk to me. Well, and in addition, this stimuli I wanted to be detached from that, from those, and it's a sort of a strengthen of a mechanism of defense, of detachment about this stimuli. It's also interesting, the results about emotional index, and where we can see an effect of gender. In fact, we can see that so that female present, so women presented a, a very negative emotional involvement in comparison to men in response to, especially in response to effective anti-smoking PSAs. We can comment this and we can explain this result by the fact that women tend to be more influenced by advertisements that emphasize health effects of smoking. And in addition, men tend to avoid health related matters and deny health related problems, tend to not seek help, to not seek also help for quit smoking. And this could be also reflected by the visual attention index, that is an index developed through the eye tracking technique. And well, we see that in fact that men present a lower value of visual attention in comparison to women. And it's also interesting that ineffective anti-smoking PSA were more seen and were more fixed in comparison to effective ones. This could be explained by the fact that they were not clear. This kind of advertisements were not clear, so people spend much more time trying to understand those. Okay. Another study, in this case, we focused on adolescents and young adults, and we enlarged the stimuli. So we used pictures and videos related of the same, belonging to the same campaign. And what we saw is that, for instance, it's very interesting, the results about the effective stimuli. In fact, we saw that the processing of the effective stimuli was the lowest. This could be explained by the fact that this PSA was very, very clear. The message was delivered sharply and was very easily understood. um, if we see the video counterpart of this campaign, well, this video was about this man who had an heart attack less than 14 years old. So this video was very elicited a higher cognitive processing. This was because was a narrative story, an experiential story. So there were more elements to be processed. Okay. Um, Concerning this last study, in this study, it's very interesting the fact that we see a sort of counterpart between frontal alpha symmetry and emotional involvement. Uh, in fact, we see that heavy smokers presented higher approach tendency toward the effective stimuli. Well, this appears strange, but it's very interesting that it's the reverse of the emotional index. So this could be explained by the fact that, as according to Brehm reactance theory, that those stimuli that use the effective ones that used paternalistic fearful communication style probably produce a dangerous reactance effect in smokers. And in addition, we can also see a correlation between number of cigarettes smoked by participants and this frontal asymmetry. So it's like, and this data is also supported by previous literature, that the quantity of nicotine intake modulates the neural response to anti-smoking messages exposure. Well, just it's the last slide. I just want to stress the importance of such kind of techniques with respect to the use of the only traditional ones like self-reports, questionnaire, and so on. In fact, we can have more detail about for example, the spontaneous recall that we can see in the graph here, for which the heavy smokers presented a higher recall, spontaneous recall of the awarded campaigns that were stylistically interesting and appealing, but not really effective in the delivery of the message. Okay. Just take home message, when you design a commercial or a product, pay attention to the neurophysiological indices balance, about that, if you can perform neuromarketing studies, and look at the characteristics of the target. Otherwise, you could produce side effects. Okay. So thank you so much for your attention, and thanks to all my colleagues.